afternoon. So let's talk pricing. Stop guessing how you're pricing and actually create offers that are going to make you money. Sarah here, aka the Business Fixer. And pricing is probably one of the biggest shifts that I can help businesses make. I've worked with a number of businesses where they have, just by changing this pricing strategy, has been game changing. So if you want to run your service-based business that actually pays you properly, your pricing cannot be based on guesswork. It cannot be based on fear or what someone else is doing. Yet this is exactly what I see week in, week out. Smart, capable business owners that are working all hours, delivering those brilliant results, but they're still not earning enough. Does this sound like you? It's not because you are lacking the talent or commitment in terms of what you are doing. And it's certainly not because the services that you are offering aren't valuable. But it's because your prices are often never structured with intention. Is there planning behind them? Or are you just using a gut feeling or a comparison with your competitors or just a figure that you kind of feel safe with? I would love to hear your comments. Now, let's get one thing straight. The pricing side is not a sales issue. It's not about being more confident or finding the right script to handle those objections. If your pricing structure is not built to support the business model that you are creating, no amount of leads or more sales conversations will solve the problem. Pricing is not about a number you stick on at the end. It's a core part of your business plan. It's a core part of your sales process. And you need to feel confident in the pricing in which you are quoting to your clients. And so many business owners that I see, they're basing their prices on what they assume their market will tolerate. And this is a favorite quote that I remember from my ex-husband that says, assumptions are the mother of all F-ups, right? So if you are assuming that's what your market will tolerate, assumptions, no, don't do it, right? You'll scroll through these competitor websites, you'll ask around in groups, or you'll choose a figure that you think won't rock the boat. And you'll tell yourself you're going to revisit this later. Maybe once the client base is established or the pressure eases off. But copying others is not the way forward. You don't know their numbers. You don't see what their overheads are, their margins, their team structure, or how much personal cost is being poured into keeping their businesses afloat. You just see the surface. And therefore, if you're building your business based on someone else's surface level decisions, it's only going to lead to one place: stress, exhaustion, and stagnation. And you don't want to be doing what everybody else is doing. As a business, you want to be a leader in your field. You don't want to be following the crowd. You want to be leading, okay? So pricing has to be about you, your goals, your time, your financial requirements, your capacity, and most importantly, the real value that you deliver to your ideal clients. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out some of the most common blind spots that I see when it comes to pricing, the myths that cost business owners money, time, and confidence. And then I will show you what it looks like when you're approaching your pricing properly as a business planning decision that is going to drive business growth. Because that's ultimately what you want. You want the stability, you want the control, you want the growth. And this is one of the ways in which you can achieve this. So, undercharging. This is a big thing that I see time and time again. What is that really costing you? Okay. And I'll give you a prime example. I recently worked with a client who had brilliant service, loyal clients. They really knew what they were doing. They were experts in their field, a reasonable steady stream of work. But month after month, they were still feeling the pinch. They had to cut staff down. They really had to cut their cloth. And there was just no breathing room. They had no reward for themselves for the hours in which they were putting in. and they were charging too little. And you know what? They knew they were charging too little, but they were too nervous to make a change. And I went into this business and I said about the charging too little, and I gave them a pricing structure, and they were really, really resistant at first. But you know what? Once we had restructured those offers around the results that actually delivered, and we increased the pricing, it was quite a significant increase, something changed. Their income tripled. And I mean tripled. That's no exaggeration, right? The right people then stayed, the wrong ones fell away. And that's what you want to happen. You don't want to be servicing everyone and anyone. You want to be servicing your ideal clients, right? And the shift wasn't just financial. It showed them how they saw themselves and what they finally could believe was possible by making that shift. This is the power of proper pricing. You're not pricing for the sake of it, but your pricing then reflects a clear, confident plan. And when you undercharge, the consequences are often subtle at first, and it's about more time spent delivering, less energy for growth, and eventually a business that feels harder than what it should. So don't undercharge. You need to be charging what you are worth, right? Okay, next. Why potentially, if you're charging by the hour, it's holding you back. Now, I've come from the legal profession, which the large majority of legal providers out there, this is a model that they use. It's standard, right? But actually, over time, it can become restrictive, because ultimately you're then selling your time and putting a ceiling on your income. And it positions your value in the wrong place. You're not then being hired, you aren't ultimately being hired for how long something takes. But if you're positioning yourself in that way, that's how it all then comes together. You are being hired for your experience, your clarity, your insight, your ability to solve problems and deliver results, whatever they may be. Whereas hourly pricing invites scrutiny. It trains clients to focus on the cost, not the outcome. It encourages them to monitor the clock, not the progress. And it keeps you tied to your diary, your energy levels, and your personal availability. This is not about charging more for the sake of it. This is about building a pricing structure that reflects what you actually bring to the table. One that supports a business you can grow without working twice as hard for marginal gains. More hours will not solve broken pricing. More clients will not fix poor packaging. If your pricing is not built to support the business you want to run, it will always feel like a struggle. But before we start talking about what pricing model is right for your business, we have to talk about what you are actually selling. Because many business owners, this is the blind spot that sits at the heart of every pricing issue, okay? So this is probably one of the common pricing misconceptions I see, where people see a service is what you do, a task, a deliverable. And you need to actually differentiate between service and an offer, because the offer is what you are actually selling. The offer is how that service is structured, positioned, and priced. It includes the features, the benefits, which is normal in your service side, but what you're adding on, which is the really important bit, this is the cherry on top. This is the value, the journey, and the outcome. Because people will buy based on the value, the journey, the outcome. They're not going to buy based on features and benefits. People buy based on emotion, not logic, right? They'll make an emotional decision and then use the logic to back up their decision, okay? So a strong offer is clear, outcome driven, and aligned to the needs of your ideal client. It sells the result, not the time. When your pricing is based only on the service and you end up selling features, right? And you don't want to be doing that. When it's built around the offer, you're selling the transformation. And people will invest in that transformation. They're buying certainty, confidence, speed, clarity, and peace of mind. And that's where the true value lies. And that is what your pricing should reflect. Okay, so if your pricing feels unclear, uncertain, or constantly under pressure, it is worth asking, are you selling a service or are you presenting an offer? Once that distinction becomes clear, everything else becomes easier to structure, from how you communicate your value to how you plan your income. Okay, right. Your pricing needs to be planned. It's not something you pluck out of thin air. This is something that you need to sit and look at, right? Doesn't mean you have to start from scratch, but you need to come from a place of clarity. This isn't about instinct. It's about charging what, and it's not about charging what people think you think people will pay. This is about designing a business model that actually works and planning your pricing to support it. So start with the end in mind. What do you want your business to give you? What do you want to earn out of your business? You know, so many times we're always just focusing on everybody else that we're not actually thinking about, what are we trying to achieve out of this business? How much time do you want to spend in delivering that offer? What are your personal goals and how many clients can you realistically support? Because, you know, in terms of the offers in which you're providing, in certain contexts, like with what I do with coaching, I can support more clients if I'm doing it in a group context than on a one-to-one, which is why I have a number of group offers. Once you have that picture, you can start to build offers that match it. Offers that are structured with clarity, deliver those strong results, and are priced in a way that makes your business sustainable. You reverse engineer your pricing based on the income you want, the time you have, and the level of service you are committed to providing. Then you choose the model that fits. In some sectors, particularly those with ongoing support, needs like law, accountancy, or consulting, monthly retainers can work really well. In other sectors, particularly those maybe focused on change and results, such as coaching, design, or marketing, on value-based pricing is usually more effective, right? So it's likely to be a fixed fee type structure in those circumstances, but don't be focusing based on the time, it's based on the value. There is no one size fits all here, but there is a model that will work for your business. Your pricing should be designed with that in mind, right? And I'm telling you that when pricing is unclear, underdeveloped, or disconnected from your goals, everything else becomes harder. You end up working more to compensate. You say yes to wrong clients because you just want that cash in the bank. We've all been there. You try to make up the difference by volume, and the quality of your work or your life starts to suffer, because ultimately you can only do as much as you can do. But it doesn't matter how good your marketing is. It does not matter how many inquiries come through the door if the numbers behind your offers do not stack up, or if the offers themselves aren't packaged right. Growth will always then feel like a strain. Getting your pricing and packaging of your offers right is not a luxury. It's not something you revisit later. It's the foundation of a high-performing business, one that pays you properly, one that values your expertise, and one that creates a space to grow. Okay, right. Now, if you know your pricing is not working and you are tired of feeling undervalued, and you are finally ready to create those offers and get your pricing that truly reflects the transformation you bring, this is your moment. Okay, now you'll see across the screen, you can book yourself into the business performance strategy session, where we can actually have a look at your current pricing and your goals and your structure, and we can start talking about a potential plan that's going to work for you, not against you, right? This is not about making your pricing, it's not just about making your pricing work, it's about making your business finally work the way you always wanted it to do. Now, this is just one of the things we also cover in the Kickstart Business Performance membership, right? And this is something where we will walk through how to structure your services into high-performing offers, price them properly, and build a model that supports growth. Live training, practical tools, absolutely no fluff. So if you're ready not just to have an initial conversation, but you are ready to make the change now, and you want to join our Kickstart Business Performance membership, then just comment the word kickstart, and we can get you signed up straight away. Now, this membership, I don't normally do these types of things. It is £27 a month, and you get access to me once a week live. You get access to other former trainings as well as resources for £27 a month. You know, I think that's probably even less than what you would be paying if you were having a weekly coffee, right, these days with the price of coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I don't know, but it's £27 a month. Every business can afford £27 a month. So if you're interested, make sure that you comment the word kickstart, and we can get you started immediately. Hope you found today's session really helpful. Please do reach out if you've got any questions in relation to into pricing. I'd love to hear your comments in the chat. You know, even if I'm not live, I will always go back and see what comments you've made, and I'd love to hear your perspective. Is your pricing on point, or do you feel like you are one of those ones that's undercharging and that you could do better? Thanks, guys, for listening, and I will see you all again next week.